Hi, AfterBuzzers. You're watching the Black Mirror After Show, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, hello, hello. It's been so long since I've seen you guys.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Nice to see you again.
Welcome back. We're in the same clothes. Welcome to Black Mirror Season 3, Episode 2, Playtest. I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. And here are my co-hosts.
Thank you. I'm Miaira Jennings. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Miaira Jennings.
And I'm Steve Kaufmann. You can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That's Kaufmann.
All right. So, first thoughts on Playtest.
I enjoyed this one a lot. This was a little more contained than a lot of the other ones. Like, a lot of the other ones seem to be like this big world where it's like, no, this is like one guy, one company.
Yeah. It was cool. I think, I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought we got to know a few things about, as far as video games and all that stuff, and we'll get into it. But, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It was weird and interesting to kind of see go back to real world. So we weren't in that kind of Black Mirror alternate world anymore, because I was looking at his phone. I was like, that's just a regular phone.
Yeah.
It's not anything special. So it's nice how they kind of toy with that of like this kind of future alternate universe and then our present day universe. So we're introduced to Cooper, and he is an American abroad. He takes off. We don't really understand why he takes off. It's kind of like, it seems like he's kind of doing it secretly. And then we see a bunch of jumps, kind of reminiscent of, I guess I can't make the reference if I can't remember the name of the movie.
Wow.
Some 90s early odds film where a guy actually takes a European trip, not Euro trip, within a film. Anyways, and we see him go through, I think, Thailand, and he ends up in India at one point. There's a bunch of flashes of him before we finally land in London. And there he meets a woman by the name of Sonia and has what's supposed to be, but doesn't end up being, a one-night stand. It's just, what were your guys' first feelings on Cooper and Sonia, just like the characters separately and together?
Well, they met on the dating app, right?
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool, pretty relevant.
Yeah.
That's another thing that brought us back to the present times, because I'm like, okay, this is very realistic. He's swiping until he found her. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I also thought that was really cool. I liked her character a lot because we never actually knew
If she took,
what she was up to, and if she took his credit card information, and if she was a honeypot to get him
to
be the playtest or not.
I didn't think she was.
I could buy it either way.
It seemed like his credit card was stolen in whatever country he was in right before then, because they said it was like in some type of
Did you buy
country.
Sandals in somewhere?
Oh, I see.
and so I assumed that's when his card was taken.
Right.
I know I had some information stolen when I was in London. I'm pretty sure it happened in Amsterdam. So so it's like it takes it a minute for it to be uncovered. So he ends up with Sonia, and she ends up being a gamer. And can I just say that as a gamer, a retired gamer, because it's an addiction, I was very happy to see a female gamer be represented in a national television show. I was like, oh, yes. Or international. I was like, we exist, and we are passionate. So to see her kind of talk about that and then talk about the singularity, it was a very different type of woman, and not just a woman, but a Black woman as well, portrayed in media. How did you guys feel about Sonia's introduction?
Yeah, I think that was great, especially since I don't know, I guess people have, and I don't know, I've never been on these dating apps, so maybe I'm completely wrong, but I'm not sure if people have a certain expectation of women they meet on these apps. And yes, they did sleep together, but it seems like it at least led to a basic friendship. I mean, he was still there for a little bit, and they did discuss some things. So yeah, it was refreshing to see that she wasn't just all about the hookup, and it turned out to be a little bit more.
I can say from experience, most women you find on a dating app aren't just about the hookup. Because women, to my understanding, men are weirdos. You could pretty much hook up anytime.
Well, I think women can as well. I think what was being portrayed more so than just like she was a friendly hookup. I think there's this weird, I know because I'm a touch older, like just that touch where Tinder is a little weird to me. Of this kind of mindset where it is assumed that women can't hook up like men can. Like, we can't just be like, hey, this is great. So nice to meet you. Get out. But we can. And I think what's kind of been lost in this, like, whatever you want to call it, hookup culture, is that kind of friendliness. Like, I remember in college, I'd hook up with someone, and they'd make me breakfast, and I'd be like, thank you so much. I'm never going to see you again. And that was totally fine. We could be friendly and crack jokes with the understanding that we will never see each other again.
Yeah, I feel like Sonia portrayed that well. I was just saying, I'm not sure if there's a distinction between the women or men that you meet on these apps that want it to maybe turn out more and be friends and have conversations, or if it's just strictly hookups. I don't know how it works. I'm definitely asking.
It's also ambiguous too.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's just
You'll run into a lot of people that you'll match with that are like, I'm just looking for a friend.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, well, I have friends.
Yeah.
I'm on this app for something different.
Yeah, and that's however you choose to use it. Is however you choose to use it. Tinder should only be for sex. Just letting you guys know. But like, it's a weird app. But
Is that what he was? We didn't see what it was
it
called.
was a version
so.
of Tinder.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I don't know what
think
he was
they
looking
can
for that
legally
night. But
use Tinder.
They would have to like pay a
They
licensing
have to
fee,
pay,
and then
they
like it would be all.
they don't have to do that. So, and the next morning, he discovers his credit card has been stolen. He is hesitant to reach out to his mom, and we kind of get a little backstory. It was a lot of explaining the first 30 minutes of this episode, which for me was a little bit like, get to the Black Mirror part, like get to the freaky part, please. So that was kind of a new part of this kind of newer setup that I didn't necessarily appreciate as much, because they were also still in modern times, so it wasn't like I'm seeing like they were in this alternate universe. He ends up calling Sonia and going back to her place, and all his money is gone, but he uses like this app that allows the Odd Jobs app, to pick up jobs here and there when he's out of the country. And he finds a company run by Shu.
I'm not sure how to say it.
I'm just gonna butcher that.
It's a gaming company. It looks like to be mildly based off of Nintendo. Mildly based off of Nintendo. Just because they made like a young Asian man the face of it. And Sonia says that's a big deal. You know, they pay really well, and if you get a picture, you could sell that picture of that technology for millions of dollars. So he goes up to what I assume is it seemed to be a northern part of England. He's no longer in the city. And he's told that it's a virtual reality, which is so relevant at this current time, because there are at least 3 different virtual reality systems I have heard of that are coming out within the next, that have been out or are coming out within the next 2 to 3 months. So it's basically plugged into your brain, and it alters your reality through your actual eyes, not just from you putting on a screen. And how did you guys feel about that? Because that does seem to kind of be like the next
Well, because
wave.
that's through your eyes different, but that's that would be augmented reality.
Yeah, augmented
But it
reality. And I think they
seems-
did say that.
But what we learned is like that wasn't actually happening.
Well, before we get to that,
but
just like before we,
but like
But the idea of that.
the idea of an
You were-
augmented
right.
reality, which is where the universe of Black Mirror takes you, that they all have some
Yeah.
type of ocular implant that they just
Yeah, but with this one in particular, it wasn't like, because even at the end of Nosedive, we see them kind of like yanked out of our eyes,
which was
So-
interesting because John Hamm's character in White Christmas said that you can't take them out. So that was the first. They can take them out if you go to jail.
Yeah, it seems like there's a forward movement with. This is a different time. The Bryce Dallas Howard time
Yes.
is different from the John Hamm time. Like, it's maybe 20, 30 years past. It seems like it. Just because they're a little different. Maybe not. But, so we end up seeing that it's implanted into your brain. So it's not something where maybe it's layered on top of your eyes, but it's something that goes into your brain and actually does change the chemistry within your brain, reads from your brain to find out what scares you. So it starts off with a cute little whack-a-mole, and then they upgrade him to Scary House, which is kind of like something they do there's a game on iPhone, I think, that's like still in the first stages, where you can like use your camera as like a haunted house, and I think they might be doing that with virtual reality too, where
I'm sure they do.
your actual camera.
A Google Cardboard.
Yeah,
Probably.
You use your camera to implant scary visuals into it. And they leave him alone, which I would never agree to. Like, why would you agree to be alone in the house?
I think this is such a relevant trend. Again, I mean, the whole Odd Jobs idea.
The app,
People do that. They need money. He needs to get home. So, I mean, these people are desperate. These companies need guinea pigs, and that's who they target.
Yeah. So he's brought to the house by Katie, and she gives him a little earpiece so he can hear her throughout. And I kind of know from there that something's going to go up, because I was like, she keeps saying it's audio and visual. Like, they're going to totally mess with his brain.
Although I thought this could have been a Total Recall thing. In the sense that, like, the game's going haywire is a part of the storyline.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that initial...
And that kind of ended up being true. I think what they did really well was play with the concept of time, which is what we discover at the end. So once the game is like used to pull things from his mind that scare him, it goes too far. It originally starts with some like scary man that looks like a bully from childhood, and then the spider with the face.
Oh yeah, that's
with the guy's
awesome.
face.
Yeah.
I couldn't really look after that point. I couldn't look anymore. And then Sonja appears to warn him that he's like, his life is in danger, and we kind of just don't know, because he can like touch Sonja, and and up until that point he hadn't been able to touch any of the things that were appearing. So how did you guys feel about that kind of, what were you feeling when that happened? Were you like, is this real? Like,
I absolutely questioned it. I absolutely thought maybe she was there, because she did give him the idea essentially to go to the place. She pulled out the magazine, so I'm like, is this really bad? But then after, it started getting a little weird. It's like, okay, this is definitely a part of it, but I'm wondering why he didn't want to stop sooner.
Yeah.
What was he trying to prove?
And they never told him, like, you won't get you'll get X amount of dollars per minute. Like, they never told him that. It was just like, whenever, we're just monitoring when you need to stop.
Well, I think something that actually really annoyed me about his character was that when Sonja was there, he kept talking over her. And I was like, shut up. And really just, like, take time to think, is this real? What's going on? Is this possible? And so that felt something that was, like, just bloated, where they could have got to the point where he was, like, asking her questions and she, like, freaked out on him a lot sooner. But when she plunged the knife through him, I was like, oh, wow. This is a really short episode of Black Mirror.
Oh.
He's dead.
And I was like, cool. This is how this is going to end, so cool. And then when we discovered that is also still a part of the game, and that it's kind of spiraling out of control, we know, like, this is just no way it can end well. So when it gets to the point where he's in the room and he's suffering from dementia by that point and doesn't remember where he's at, and they're like taking him away, I was like, wow, they went there. Like, they actually, because they toy with killing people, but they don't necessarily always do it. How'd you guys feel at that point?
I like that too. I also liked, I'm pretty sure he said his father died of Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So the idea that he wound up with a similar dementia, or that a lot of people say the singularity will cure things like Alzheimer's. Like, I think the James Franco Planet of the Apes, that was his motivation. Was, we're gonna test apes.
Yeah, for
Alzheimer's. We're gonna test apes so that we can learn how to redevelop brain activity to help my dad.
And just messed it up. Everybody trying to cure stuff.
Human tampering stuff.
Yeah,
everybody dies. It's okay.
I do kind of wish so was this just for scientific purposes?
No,
because
it was a video game.
Yeah,
so it really was a video game.
Yes, it was. To
I was thinking, okay, maybe they're doing scientific experiments, but what would be? And this is another thing which is so brilliant about the writing. There's so many things that we have now in development that I question why. Like, just because you can doesn't mean you should create this. What is the purpose? So that was another question I do kind of wish we got the answer to, but at the same time, if it's just a video game, it's like, okay, just because we can.
Well, there was something that even Show talked about at the beginning, where he was like, people like to be scared because they know that it's not real, that it's safe. And I was like, oh God, this is what they're going to do. They're going to make it so real that it's too much. But then when they do the jump back, so they do the jump back, and he's just in the office with Show and Katie. And And they apologize, and they remove the implant, and they send him on his way. And I was like, this is a fake out.
Really? I didn't call that.
The quick jump to him on the airplane, I was like, this is not real. Because it just felt so much like Inception. And in that moment, when they just do that, like, and you're fine. Everything's fine. And you're on the plane. And you make it all the way home. And you open the door, and his mom was there. And I was like, no, this can't be it. This can't be. If it is... he's still in the game. He's like in some crazy room, and he's still like reliving it. What did you guys think?
I definitely didn't call that we would go back to the facility, but I did think there would be something wrong with him neurologically or something like that. I didn't know that he was still in the chair.
Yeah.
So
I kind of thought he was still in the chair. By
Really?
That point. Like,
Yeah.
the second you fool me once,
Yeah.
the second you fool me once, I'm like, nope, it's all a lie.
It was just that quick cut that I was like, no, he's probably still there. He probably did really get locked up. And that was a fake out. But then, because they mentioned one brief thing in that moment where they talked about the time where he was like, that was only a second. So the entire, him in the haunted house was only a second. That's what they said. And then what we discover is that that's actually, he's only been in the game for 0.04 seconds. He didn't even make it
the entire time
to the whack-a-mole in reality because his phone rang and he had a seizure and died. How did you get?
Yeah.
That's where I kind of got a little bit confused. I was like, so are we to believe that all of this happened for him in 0.04 seconds?
My understanding, yes, was that it all happened for him in 0.04 seconds. The reason being is the game is augmented reality, so it's your world, and then they just put stuff on top of it inside your own head.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the cell phone interference from his mom calling, as much as the fear and guilt he felt every time he heard his phone ring and knew it was his mother.
Yeah. So
I think that's what, like...
It's a mix of that fear.
The fear, the guilt, and then you probably shouldn't have cell phones in that room.
And they even referenced it when you first got on the plane, like be careful of cell phone interference.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a very interesting connection between those two moments.
Yeah. So... Final thoughts.
Also, season 3, episode 6, I'm not going to spoil anything. On a TV screen, it specifically says Show Salto announces immersive new gaming system.
Oh.
So, timeline-wise, wherever season 3, episode 6 is
relevant
after this episode.
Episode 2.
That he got it right. That he got it right enough that he feels comfortable releasing
And
it.
I believe season 4 is coming back in January.
Oh, gosh.
Really? That soon?
That's what I saw on IMDb. In any case, real quick, overall, how did you feel about this episode of Black Mirror? Did it still keep you intrigued? Did you think it was a little slow, like I kind of did?
I think this one they probably could have gotten to the action and the questions a little bit sooner, because I feel like we did, like you said, we got a lot of backstory, not really backstory, but we got a lot of conversation and things that never came up again. I don't know. They never really brought it back full circle. I thought the latter part of the episode was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this one has the misfortune of being the weakest of the 6.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of one of them has to be the weakest of the 6. They're all great, but I think this one felt a little slow. It was very encapsulated, and the main character wasn't incredibly...
That interesting.
Like, it wasn't that interesting. It wasn't incredibly likable.
No, not at all.
Like, at a certain point, you were like, you should have really called your mom. Like, I actually...
If you just called your mom, like, all this would have been solved. Yeah, I think they spent a little too much time with the exposition, and I think that his character... There's sometimes when you put an American in London type of feel, it's just like, ugh. Like, just either keep us in America, or you have to have a lot of charm. You have to have John Hamm charm to be the lead in a British television show. In any case, I think that about wraps up this episode of Black Mirror. That was so fast. Flying. I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. It's MSADRIANSNOW. And where can they follow you guys?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miaira Jennings.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That is KAUFMANN.
And as always, please, please, please rate, subscribe, love us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, everywhere in the world, Twitter, Dropbox. I don't know. Think of whatever you can think of. Thank you guys.
Everything.
MySpace. I'm still on MySpace.
You know, hey, we're there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.